Welcome to College Softball on the SEC Network. We are live from College Station, Texas at Davis Diamond. It is Game 2 of the weekend series. Third-ranked Alabama taking on the home team, the Texas A&M Aggies. Welcoming you into the booth, I'm Chelsea Reber, along with former All-American Tori Vidalis. Tori, yesterday a run-roll victory for the Tide. They stay perfect on the season. What were your big takeaways from yesterday's game?
I think we saw a lot of offense, which we were expecting from Alabama, but something that may not have been talked about as much. Montana Fouts had a great performance in the circle. Although she did have 4 walks, which is almost half of her entire total for the season, she did end up with 10 strikeouts on the night, and it improves to 12-0, and that's a great start for anybody, but especially a freshman.
A bright spot for Texas A&M was Danny Elder. 2 hits on the day, her first career home run. But when you talk about offense, it truly was all about Alabama.
And Alabama just leaving no doubt from the first inning that they were going to put a lot of runs up on the board. Started off with Bailey Hemphill, a 3-run home run in the first inning, just started off strong, and Kayla Davis coming up with a bunch of RBIs. Claire Jenkins making an adjustment on a pitch she got beat by the at-bat before. Mara Schroeder going yard. Just so many RBI opportunities. Skyler Wallace getting in on the action with her own home run. Just so many big, powerful swings from the Alabama lineup.
They saw Hannah Mayo and Kayla Pointer in the circle yesterday for Texas A&M, but today it's going to be the junior who gets the start, number 13, Kendall Potts.
And Kendall Potts, I'm sure the Aggies are looking for a very quality start from her today. Threw a very, very good game against SFA in their midweek competition, and then had probably one of her best starts that I've seen to date against Auburn last weekend in their SEC series at their place. So I'm excited to watch her work today against a potent offense like Alabama, but we will see a lot of speed from her. Throws pretty hard. Hardest thrower on A&M staff, so a good matchup we're looking at.
Well, she will have a tough test ahead. Alabama's lineup, really 1 through 9, is so good. Only one starter not hitting above 300. Kayla Davis will start things off, followed by KB Sides, and then Bailey Hemphill, who had a big home run in the first inning yesterday. Kayla Davis leading the NCAA in walks. She got 3 more yesterday. She's a total of 35 on the season. So a leadoff hitter who does a really good job of getting on base. Here we go. The start of Game 2 is underway. Tal, the sophomore from Madisonville, Kentucky. And not necessarily a ton of speed, has 0 stolen bases on the season, but as a leadoff hitter, does her job and gets on base. Hitting .377 coming into this contest. Strike on the outside part of the plate. First strike of the day for Kendall Potts. Tori, what is Potts going to have to do today to be successful against this lineup?
She's going to have to paint the corners. A lot of times the A&M pitching staff kind of gets behind in counts and feels like they have to go right to the meat of the plate, but they need to clip the corners, make it look pretty, but not too pretty to the hitters to where they're able to fool them and just make it look good for the umpire. Two balls, 1 strike to Tao. And that one misses for ball 3. So already behind in the count here. 3 balls, 1 strike. As I mentioned, Tao drew 3 walks in yesterday's contest. Swing and a miss to bring the count to full. With Tao being the leadoff and having so many walks already leading the NCAA, to me, that would mean I'm going right at her. I do not want to issue a leadoff walk, especially the first batter of the game, so Potts needs to go at her right here.
There's the payoff pitch. Lifted foul down the left field line. And Tao drew that leadoff walk yesterday in the first inning. Patrick Murphy, in his 21st season as the head coach at Alabama, has been with the program since its inception and one of the best coaches in softball history. And that one just misses, so another leadoff walk for Kayla Tao to get things started off for Alabama. Defensively, supporting Potts in the circle today. On the infield for Texas A&M, Kayla Garcia at shortstop getting her third start of the season. Riley Sartain, the senior, over at third. Kelly Martinez at second. Bailey Klingler, the freshman, at first. And Danny Elder getting the nod behind the plate today. Side shows bunt and pulls back for ball one. Kelby Fortenberry, the junior center fielder, holding things down. And then Blake Ann Fritch in left. And Tadria Sinney, the freshman, getting the start out in right field today for the Aggies. Again, Tao not really a threat to run at first. No stolen bases on the season. Side shows bunt. Pulls back again for ball two. Taking a look at your umpires today, Anthony Small behind home plate. It's Brandon Bloom over at first and Don Brown at third. This time swinging away, chops that one foul down the third baseline. Sides, the sophomore from Dora, Alabama. Sides went 2 for 4 in yesterday's game, coming into this contest, hitting .308. Shows bunt, pulls back again. So Potts really struggling to find that strike zone right now, Tori.
And the first two pitches when Sides squared around a bunt were not bad pitches at all. You want to keep that ball up in the zone because they're trying to lay down a bunt, and a ball up in the zone, a rise ball, is going to be the hardest ball for you to bunt because you have to over-exaggerate getting on top.
This time she does lay it down. Sartain over to Martinez. A high throw is going to pull Martinez off the bag. So an uncharacteristic throwing error there by Riley Sartain. And Sides is safe at first base. And that's going to bring up the big hitter for the Tide, Bailey Hemphill. Here's what she did yesterday with 2 runners on.
Doesn't even square that ball up, and it gets out of the yard. Just so much power, and she's going to be swinging. She's not going to sit around and wait for a walk. She can hit pitches in the strike zone, and she can hit pitches around the strike zone, so you have to be careful with her.
First pitch to Hemphill is a strike on the inside part of the plate. In yesterday's first inning, Tao drew the walk. KB Sides with the single on the infield, and then Bailey Hemphill with the 3-run shot to get things started with the Tide. We'll see what happens in the same situation here today. Beautiful off-speed pitch right there by Kendall Potts.
And that's the pitch that Potts has to have to be successful today. That changeup is so different from her fast stuff, and it throws the hitters off balance. And as a hitter, your most important thing is your balance and your timing. If you throw those two off, you'll do pretty great.
The 0-2 to Hemphill. Just misses on the inside part of the plate. A great 0-2 pitch right there by Potts. Hemphill, yeah, very, very close. Hemphill hitting .407 with runners on this year, .474 with runners in scoring position. She's got a runner out there on second. Changeup gets her looking. A big strikeout right there for Kendall Potts.
A huge strikeout for Potts. You'll see she pulls the string once again. A little bit of a flip change. Freezes Hemphill. You'll see the ball come out of the back of her hand. A really tight snap on that ball. Great spin. And what I like about that is when she threw the changeup the second pitch, the 0-2 pitch was in and hard. So it's going to change your timing and then goes right back to that changeup. Just a great decision.
Claire Jenkins steps in, takes the first pitch for ball one. Jenkins yesterday did have a home run in the third. Junior from Coleman, Alabama. Runner still at first and second for the Tide. 1 out here in the top of the first. Jenkins tries to lay the sneaky bunt down. This one is going to go back to the screen for a foul ball and strike one. And what I love, too, about that strikeout to Hemphill, you could see the emotion from Danny Elder, the catcher, and how excited she was for her pitcher to not only make that pitch, but get the strikeout.
And it's just such a big strikeout. You walked the first batter. There was an error on the second play. So just coming back with that strikeout, especially one of their best hitters, that's huge, and the whole defense knew it.
The 2-1 pitch catches the inside part of the plate for strike 2. Potts really working on the inside part of the plate today against these hitters.
And Claire Jenkins got beat yesterday on the inside half and did make an adjustment, ended up hitting a home run. So I'm kind of wondering if that's the game plan, to just stay on the inside half the whole game, or if they're going to play a little bit of a mind game with her.
Goes back to the inside part of the plate. This one misses. So now a full count, 3 balls, 2 strikes with runners at first and second. And you mentioned it. She got beat on that inside pitch in her first at bat, got the strikeout, then came back. Now, Kayla Pointer did leave that pitch a little bit on the inner half of the plate, maybe a little bit too much plate, the one that Jenkins hit out. See what Potts does on this pitch. Here's the payoff pitch, and that one misses low for ball 4. So the bases are now loaded for the Tide with Maris Schroeder, another home run hitter from yesterday's ball game.
We talked about a little bit of the differences from Potts today compared to Pointer and Mayo yesterday. Potts throws a lot harder than the both of those pitchers that we did see yesterday. So a pitch on the inside half is much harder to get to because it's getting to you so fast. You have to be able to clear your hips and hands. It makes it a little bit more difficult.
Schroeder takes the first pitch for a strike. The senior Texan hitting .291 on the season. The only starting player in this lineup hitting under 300 right now. Does have 7 home runs on the season. There's that off-speed pitch again, Tori. This one misses just low. The Aggie faithful not happy about this call.
And you'll see Potts just keeps that changeup so low. Incredibly tight spin. Makes it very hard to determine that speed of the pitch until it gets almost to you.
Ground ball to left side. That one will get through. 1 run will score. It's bobbled out in left field. So 2 runs will score for Alabama. A 2-run single by Maris Schroeder.
Just a ball that was squared up off the bat of Schroeder. Just punches it through the 5-6 hole. You'll see her hips are cleared and her hands are able to stay through the ball, and that's why she gets such a good barrel on it. Just a miscue right there in the outfield. Doesn't come up very cleanly with it, but I think KB Sides would have scored regardless.
Yeah, it would have taken a really
speed.
strong throw from left field in Blake Ann Fritsch. Well, that's going to bring up Reagan Dykes, designated player for today's game. Did start behind the plate for the Tide yesterday. Takes the first pitch for a ball. And really all season for Alabama, you've seen Bailey Hemphill and Reagan Dykes kind of switching between that catcher DP position. Both of them do stay in the lineup pretty much 100% of the time. Shows bunt, pulls back. The double steal is on. The throw will actually get into left field. Jenkins slides in safely, as does Schroeder over at second.
And this play is a play that you see from travel ball when you're very young until this age, but it doesn't happen very often when you get older because people know how to read it. The defense is so smart. Normally, you don't see this happen, a double steal. So what happens is the third baseman automatically has to crash as soon as they see that hitter square around. So then it becomes the shortstop's responsibility to cover that base. And with a head start, you cannot let the girl on second, the runner, beat you to third base. And that's just what happened right there with Garcia. She got beat to the bag and wasn't able to keep that ball in front. Luckily, there was no runner that advanced even farther with that ball going to the outfield. But that's something you have to be communicating with your third baseman with earlier than probably it did happen just then.
The pitch before was a ball, so now 3 balls, no strikes to Dykes. Runners at second and third. Dykes hitting .458 this season with runners in scoring position. The 3-0 ripped down the left field line, but foul. And that's something we saw yesterday, too. Alabama, even if the count is 3 balls, no strikes, they're swinging.
And that's how you know a team feels comfortable and is seeing the ball well when they're taking 3-0 hacks. And two, it depends on the situation. You're up 2-0. You have runners in scoring position. Why not? If it's there, swing. But in A&M's case, now that they're down 2 outs, you probably won't see that 3-0 swing as much as you would from Alabama.
The 3-1 misses low, so another walk. It is the 3rd walk of the inning for Kendall Potts. And, Tori, maybe you can argue that the strike zone is a little tight right now, but as a pitcher, you've got to recognize that.
Yeah, I was going to say it's pretty unfortunate for Potts right here, making pretty good pitches. Even Dykes, you saw her freeze a little bit right there when that pitch came in. I think she thought that it was going to be a strike too. So that's a tough break right there for Potts. But this is the time where you have to get to know your umpire strike zone, and you have to be able to adjust to it early in the game, early in the lineup, so this doesn't happen. You've already walked 3 batters. You should know the strike zone by now, what he's calling. But also, this is where those errors come back to bite you. You had KB Sides reach on an error by the Riley Sartain throw, and that run ended up scoring along with the leadoff walk. They always say leadoff walk runs score, always, because you have so many outs to work with. It's almost, I don't want to say impossible, but it's very hard to not get a leadoff runner across the plate.
It's going to be the third baseman, Maddie Morgan, who steps in with bases loaded. Still just 1 out here in the top of the first inning. Alabama already with a 2-0 lead. Jenkins at third, Schroeder at second, and Dykes at first for the Tide. Both Elder and Potts getting the sign from the dugout, taking a look at their wristband. This one misses outside as well, even more so than that first pitch. And what was probably said in that huddle with Coach Evans right there, especially to her pitcher?
She's probably asking her how she feels, if she's comfortable enough to go after these hitters, and just reminding her, hey, you don't need to serve it up. Keep hitting your spots, hit your corners, and make them swing. Don't rely on the umpire to ring them up. Make them swing. Make it look good.
3 balls, no strikes to Maddie Morgan, and this may be a situation where Morgan is taking on a 3-0. You've got bases loaded and a chance to get another run in. A little bit of a delayed call right there, but it is called a strike.
That pitch looking similar to a few earlier in the count.
Kendall Potts already at 35 pitches in this first inning. Another strike by Potts. So now a full count to Maddie Morgan, who has not swung at a pitch in this at-bat.
That last pitch was pretty, and in a hitter's count, I would be expecting to swing right there. That was a great pitch to take a hack at.
Payoff pitch from Potts. Morgan hacking at this one, fouled off to the back of the screen. Texas A&M's infield playing at a relatively normal depth. The infield is not sucked in right here, even with bases loaded.
And the reason for that shift is you want your corners to be normal distance, because a hot shot to them, they can automatically go to 4 and get that out, that force out. But your middle infielders, you want them to be playing back, because Morgan doesn't have a ton of speed, but she's not slow either. So you want to be able to turn that double play with your infielders back. And if they're in too far, anything can get past them that's hit pretty squared. And so if you keep them back, they have more of a chance of stopping a ball, stopping an extra run from scoring, and hopefully turning 2.
Coach Murphy taking a quick timeout right there to talk to Anthony Small behind home plate. Another foul ball by Maddie Morgan. 3 foul balls in a row with that 3-2 count. Doing a nice job of battling in there. There's a look at the depth of the infielders for Texas A&M. As Tori said, all kind of relatively in normal position. Right back to Potts. She gets the out at home. The throw down to first is going to get away from Klingler. 1 run scores, another one coming home. And a heads-up base running job right there by Reagan Dykes to get all the way home on that throwing error by Texas A&M.
And that right there is just a lapse of judgment. If you're the catcher, Elder, you have to hold that ball. You already know that Morgan is going to be safe at first, especially with a slow roller. Potts coming immediately back to home plate. Looks at first and then decides I'm going to go home. Morgan is already at first base by the time this throw is gone, but this ball needs to be caught, and right there you should not be going to second base. That ball is already going to be gone and in the outfield, and once she gets to second, just hold it. You just caused an extra run to score for no reason when you could have held the ball and nothing else would have happened. No more runners would have advanced.
So on a ground ball back to the pitcher, you end up scoring 2 runs. And this is where Texas A&M just kills themselves with these mistakes that end up kind of expanding and creating a lot more damage than should have happened. Skyler Wallace steps in.
A&M needs to be able to control the rest of this inning, and we've seen it happen so many times. Once one thing goes wrong, it's like the wheels start to fall off instead of kind of regrouping, regathering, and getting their composure back and trying to find outs. They just start throwing the ball around the infield, and it gets away from people.
Check swing, ground ball, back to Potts. Makes the throw in time over to first. But a big inning for Alabama as they score 4 to start off this game. The Aggies will have a chance to answer back when we come back. On only 1 hit, Alabama able to score 4 runs in the top of the first inning. A nice cushion for their starting pitcher today. It's going to be the junior, number 20, Sara Cornell.
Sara Cornell, a junior transfer from Hofstra, has a lot of innings right behind Montana Fouts. We saw her with about 76 innings before yesterday's game started, and Sara Cornell with 51, a hefty load for especially a transfer when they do have people on staff that have been with them. But you will see her throwing in the upper 60s, east to west type of pitcher, and works the plate pretty well and will attack the strike zone.
Cornell 11-0 on the season. Texas A&M's lineup today looking much like it did yesterday. A couple of changes, but still leading off for the Aggies. It's going to be the junior center fielder Kelby Fortenberry, followed by Blake Ann Fritch, and then Bailey Klingler hitting in that 3 spot for the Aggies. We will see Peyton McBride in the designated player position today for Texas A&M, hitting in that 6 hole. Fortenberry, a team high 424 on the season, takes the first pitch for a ball. And Tori, what does the mentality have to be for these Texas A&M hitters down 4-0 already early in this ball game?
Well, I assume that they're going to be taking the first strike because they want to see a lot of pitches, and even if she comes in there with the first strike, you're going to be able to see an extra pitch. So taking a strike Just allows you to kind of relax, know, and get your timing. Even though you already are getting your timing on deck, it's still a little bit different when you're in the box. So I'm going to assume that they're going to be taking the first strike, really trying to find a pitch. They're going to pick out a pitch before they go up to the plate and try to hunt that pitch and attack that pitch.
There is that first strike from Cornell. 2 balls, 1 strike to Fortenberry. Fortenberry does a nice job from the left side, really can do it all. She can lay down the bunt, she can slap, but more importantly, she's got some power. Does have 1 home run on the season, has 6 doubles. Chopper over to the left side. Jenkins will make the throw in time for out number 1. Claire Jenkins over at shortstop has really been solid for Alabama so far this weekend.
And only her first year at shortstop. Did play third base last year when Sydney Booker was at shortstop for Alabama, and Sydney Booker graduated and Claire Jenkins just moves over. So it's interesting to see, to have such an athletic third baseman in the past, and now she's able to just move over to shortstop and does a great job there.
The junior left fielder, Blake Ann Fritch, steps in for Texas A&M, hitting .236 on the season. Takes the first pitch outside. Blake Ann did have a big double in yesterday's game.
Outfielders, you'll see, are playing a little bit deeper today than they were yesterday on Blake Ann Fritch.
Yeah, that double came on a gapper into left center that really probably could have been cut off by Schroeder, but her and Alyssa Brown in center field were playing so shallow, thinking that Fritch is, and she truly is a slapper. She typically doesn't hit the ball for power, but got a piece of one yesterday and got it through the outfielders. Fouls this one back to the screen. So Cornell working ahead in this count, 1 ball, 2 strikes.
And you'll see the game plan right here is to take a strike, it looks like, so far with these first 2 hitters. But you'll notice immediately after they're swinging. And just because that you already are taking the first strike, you can't just swing at the next pitch just to swing. You need to make sure that that pitch is in your strike zone and the pitch that you were planning on hitting from the get-go.
Rise ball, Fritch able to lay off. That pitch coming in at 61 miles an hour from Cornell. So less speed than Fouts, something that, Texas A&M will have to make the adjustment a little bit. Pretty pitch right there, just misses on the outside part of the plate. And if you're thinking that Anthony Small's strike zone is small, we're seeing it on both sides right now. Fritch is able to lay off the rise ball, so a walk by Blake Ann Fritch.
Just able to see more pitches by taking the first strike, and Cornell not getting one in there until she was already behind in the count. So gives Blake Ann Fritch a little bit more of an advantage, seeing a couple more pitches and ultimately drawing that walk.
It's going to bring up the freshman first baseman, Bailey Klingler. Klingler had a hit in every SEC game coming into this weekend's contest. Did not get one in last night's ball game. Takes the first pitch for a strike. Fritch, 4 stolen bases on the season. Does have some pretty good speed over there at first. Klingler hitting .318 on the season, but doing a really nice job since A&M entered conference play. Head coach Joe Evans down there at third base, giving the signals over to her runner and her hitter. Texas A&M trying to see if they can answer back to this 4-0 lead that Alabama started things off with. driven back up the middle, but a great snag by Jenkins. She gets the first out at second, makes the throw, but it's not in time and a little wide. Bailey Klingler will be safe at first, but talk about athleticism, Claire Jenkins.
Someone cue the ESPN Top 10 music right now. Claire Jenkins just made an incredible play. I just talked about how athletic she was. Getting this ball, not only is she diving, but she dives and catches it on a short hop. You talk about athleticism and then the awareness to know, hey, the bag's right in front of me. I need to tag the base so I can get this runner out, and then still almost getting Klingler out at first with the throw. Just an incredible play right there by Claire Jenkins, just so heads up.
So a big out right there for Alabama. That's going to bring up the senior third baseman, Riley Sartain. Sartain hitting .329 on the season. The only senior on this Texas A&M roster this year. 19 RBI, 6 home runs, does lead the team.
I feel like her graphic should say Riley Sartain, lone senior. It's become a part of her name now.
It really has. Well, and because it was so unexpected. With a couple of transfers and then, one player leaving the program, it was very unexpected, I think, to everyone who was watching A&M softball over the last couple of years. And so unexpected also, obviously, to Riley Sartain, but a position that she has really stepped up. And, she's always done a nice job of being a leader, but has had to take on even more responsibility this year.
Just had to become a lot more vocal this year and was always a lead by example kid. Did what she said she was going to do, put in the work, but this year she had to use a lot more words to communicate that rather than just using her actions.
She's down in the count right now. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Here's the pitch from Cornell. Cornell really using that rise ball, trying to get these Texas A&M hitters to chase something up and out of the zone. Sartain 0 for 2 yesterday, did have a strikeout. Also drew a walk back in the first inning in yesterday's ball game. Fouls this one back to this net. And yesterday, her and Klingler have actually switched spots. So yesterday, Riley Sartain hitting in that 3 spot. Bailey Klingler hitting in the cleanup. Today, a little flip-flop, trying to see if they can get some more production.
It's all about who's hot on what day.
Here's the 2-2. Down the right field line. A couple Alabama players all making a run for it, but nobody's going to get to it as it bounces out of play, so a foul ball. You talked about Sartain kind of always being a leader by example. I mean, this is a kid that has started since her freshman year at A&M. You got to play with for 3 years, and you just know how valuable she is to this program. Another foul ball back out of play.
Riley's just one of those young ladies that just you want on your team, and a coach wants to be able to coach her, and just someone that I think so highly of, and I know a lot of her teammates and coaches do too, but just someone you definitely want on your team.
Good eye there by Sartain. Brings the count to full. 3 balls, 2 strikes, 2 outs. Klingler will be running on the pitch, so she'll have a little bit of a head start if Sartain can get a bat on this one. Swing and a miss, strike 3. Texas A&M able to get a runner on, a couple runners, but unable to get anything across the board. Alabama keeps the 4-0 lead. Alabama picked up right where they left off last night. A ton of success at the plate for the Crimson Tide.
Just look at these numbers. They speak for themselves, and the one that sticks out to me is 6 for 11 with runners in scoring position, over 500 with runners in scoring position, and that's why you see the 13 runs up there and the 4 home runs. And a big thing is 8 walks. You have to get on, and you have to have people come up in those clutch situations when there's runners on base, not when nobody's on and there's no one to move over.
They're going to start things off with the 9-hole hitter, the center fielder, Alyssa Brown. Brown, an absolute speedster on the base pass, and I mean really just has to put the ball on the ground, and she's got a great chance of being safe at first base. Texas A&M's infield squeezed in, knowing they have to get to the ball fast and make a very strong throw in order to get Brown out at first. Right back to Potts. She makes a great snag and a good throw over to first for the first out of the inning.
Just really fast reactions there. Sometimes as a pitcher, it looks like it's coming slower than it is, but this one came pretty fast. And Kendall Potts was probably thinking, hey, look what I found, because that was a shot off the bat of Brown. Just a great job of getting a glove on it and making a sharp throw over there to first base.
So now it's the top of the order for Alabama. Kaylee Tao steps in, 0 for 0 on the day, drew a walk in her first at-bat. Goes right back to that spot, but this one just misses, evens the count, 1-1.
And something that I think is not as obvious to viewers at home, but you'll notice when the umpire is lined up back there behind the plate, he's angled towards the inside half when you're looking at Tao, and it can differentiate the balls and strikes on the outer half. You'll see when he gets down into his crouch, he will be on the left side of the plate, so his angle looking at the plate is going to be more so covered on the inside half rather than the outside half. So those inside pitches, you may see a little bit more strikes called because he's on that side of the plate, and it's easier for him to see compared to the outside half.
This inside pitch ripped into right field. Cindy will pick it up and get it back in, but a base hit right there for Kaylee Tao.
And just comes in that inside half, and Kaylee Tao just gets a little bit jammed but is able to muscle it out. Almost an identical hit that she had yesterday when runners were in scoring position, so just getting it done on both halves of the plate.
Tadria Cindy getting the start out in right field today. Freshman had a really nice catch in the corner in yesterday's ball game. First pitch to KB Sides is called a strike. Sides reached on an error back in the first inning. Lifted into left field. Right on it is Fritsch. Tao will head back to first base. So a nice swing right there by KB Sides, but out number 2 for the Aggies.
And KB Side just barreling up the ball today. The first one, she did hit pretty square and reached on an error, but that one wasn't out. But she has to have the IQ to know, hey, I'm squaring this ball up today, and next time she comes to the plate, I'm going to put money on it that she gets a hit.
We'll remember that. I'll write that down. That's going to bring up Bailey Hemphill. She is the one strikeout victim today for Kendall Potts. First ball is a ball, and kind of uncharacteristic there for Bailey Hemphill. It was her 9th strikeout on the season back in the first inning.
My favorite kind of power hitter are the ones that don't strike out very often, because a lot of times power hitters think that they have to swing for the fences every time, which can cause a lot of dropping of the back shoulder or of the barrel. And something that Bailey Hemphill does is she just puts the barrel on the ball. It doesn't matter where it's at, and she's not trying to hit a home run every time. But since she has so much power, it happens more often than not.
Hemphill does have 14 home runs on the season. As a team, Alabama with 50 home runs leads the SEC. Now Hemphill finds herself with a hitter's count. 3 balls, 1 strike, 2 outs here in the top of the second. Kayla Tao over at first base after reaching on a single into right field. This one fouled off, back to the screen. And so far this game, I really am impressed by Potts' approach, especially to Bailey Hemphill.
And I talked about it earlier in the first inning. She just has to stay around the strike zone, make all of her pitches look well. And when she misses, don't miss by a lot. Miss by a little bit, make it look better to the hitters than knowing that it's going to be a ball automatically.
There is ball 4. This one actually gets past Elder, but it won't make a difference. Kayla Tao heads down to second. Hemphill to first on the walk.
I think I jinxed that right there. Said she was missing around the strike zone and throws one up and off the glove of Danny Elder.
So that'll bring up the cleanup hitter for Alabama, the shortstop, Claire Jenkins. Jenkins reached on a walk in the first inning. There's that beautiful off-speed pitch in there for a strike from Kendall Potts.
And earlier when Kaylee Tao was up to bat, a lefty hitter, I talked about how Anthony Small, the home plate umpire, was lined up on the inside half of where she was standing. So now with a righty, Claire Jenkins up, you'll see him lined up on the opposite side. So he stays on the inside half, which causes the outside corner to maybe not get as many strike calls as you would like as a pitcher. So it's just interesting to think as a pitcher which side of the plate you're going to get more strikes called on depending on where he's lined up.
But at the same time, does that change your strategy? I mean, if you were planning on going, to the outside part of the plate on a specific hitter, does that change your mindset at all?
No, I think there's always a game plan with each individual hitter, but if you miss and you're not missing by much, you just might expect it to be called a ball instead of a strike, and that's not always, just sometimes.
Potts struggling to find the strike zone during this at-bat. 3 balls, 1 strike to Jenkins.
It's also harder when the home plate umpire has a little bit more of a smaller zone like the one today has, so it makes it a little bit more difficult.
Right at Riley Sartain, she makes the snag, so a nice swing by Jenkins, but an even better defensive play by Riley Sartain will get the Aggies out of this inning. They're up to bat. We talked about how good Alabama was offensively last night. On the flip side, Texas A&M really struggled at bat.
The number that sticks out to me is when we talked about Alabama was 6 for 11. They were over 500 with runners in scoring position. And then you take a look at this graphic, 1 for 8, only hitting 125 with runners in scoring position. And they didn't produce last night. And sometimes it happens, but you have to be able to bounce back. So looking to get a lot of hits today and just have situational hitting and clutch hitting with runners in scoring position.
Well, one of those clutch hitters was Danny Elder. Her first collegiate home run came last night. The sophomore catcher went 2 for 3 on the evening.
Had a lot of first career home runs for the Aggies in this lineup. Blake Ann Fritsch had her first career home run. A lot of the freshmen hit their first one this season, and add Danny Elder to that list.
This pitch fisted into center field. It'll get through for a leadoff base hit for Danny Elder.
Danny Elder has just been taking advantage of her opportunity, getting put in the game, and just muscles this one out to center field. Got very jammed, handcuffed on this pitch, and is able to get her extension through the ball. Just sneaks it past Claire Jenkins at shortstop, and I'm just very impressed with the way Elder's coming out. Didn't get a bunch of starts earlier in the season with not in conference play, and when conference play came around, they gave her a chance, and she didn't only take her opportunity and take advantage of it the first time she got put in, but she's continuing to do so every time she gets to start.
Peyton Mcbride steps in, the designated player in today's lineup, shows bunt and pulls back for ball one. McBride, a very big key to this pitching staff for Texas A&M. We have not seen her yet this weekend, but I fully expect to do so. Hitting .323. Does not show bunt and takes this pitch for a strike.
And we will see Peyton Mcbride in the DP position most often when Kendall Potts is pitching, because those two play so well off of each other, with Peyton being more spinny and Kendall throwing harder. So it's a great matchup for an offense to have to adjust to those two different pitchers.
McBride lays down the bunt. Morgan makes the throw in time, but a successful sac bunt for Peyton McBride moves over Danny Elder.
Just fundamental softball right there. And Cornell going up in the zone. Peyton McBride getting the top of the ball, putting it down on the ground, making sure it's down before she starts running. Just a great job of getting the ball down on the ground and getting her runner over to second.
So Texas A&M with a runner in scoring position. It'll bring up the freshman shortstop, number 17, Kayla Garcia. Garcia with her third start on the year. Started Wednesday night's ball game against SFA. Started last night. First pitch up in the zone. Lays off for ball one. Garcia's out of Katy, Texas. And Tori, so far, while Hemphill goes out to talk to Cornell in the circle, so far, what have you seen from Kayla Garcia that you've liked?
I've really enjoyed her patience at the plate, and oftentimes it's really easy to get ahead of yourself and get really anxious at the plate. You get put in, you're trying to be the one, right? You're trying to get that hit. You're trying to get RBIs across the board, and she's been so patient and just seeing so many pitches. And last night we saw a very lengthy at-bat from her, and just shows that she's just getting pitches out of the zone if she doesn't want them, and seeing those balls. Had a walk yesterday, ended up with a hit in that long at bat, so just being able to produce.
After the mound talk, Cornell finds the strike zone. 2 balls, 1 strike to Garcia. Fouls this one back to the netting to even the count. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Garcia does come into this at-bat hitting .571, although this is only her 8th at-bat of the season. Does have 4 hits on the year. Another foul ball. We mentioned that at bat last night where she fouled ball after ball after ball, and how frustrating it has to be for a pitcher to be hitting the spots, throwing what you're supposed to throw, and not able to get a hitter out.
And kudos to Garcia, just seeing so many pitches. And like I was saying earlier, if she doesn't want it, she just fouls it off. Great back control and understanding of what pitches you can handle and which ones you may not be able to.
Another foul ball. This one ripped down the left field line. Schroeder will go gather it up and get it back in. It's a beautiful day here in College Station. Started off a little cloudy this morning, but the sun's trying to peek through some clouds right now, but we're sitting about 71 degrees.
Finally not freezing and windy.
will say Texas A&M has really struggled, as I'm sure a lot of teams have this season, really struggled with some bad weather in the earlier tournaments. Check swing, they'll ask if she went. They said no, she was able to hold back. So Garcia just holding back right here.
And you'll see her shoulders come around, but her bat never leaves her shoulders. And with a good hitter, you see the sequence of the swing is knee, hip, shoulder, barrel, right? So she hit all those points, just didn't fire her barrel.
Here's the 3-2. Lifted down the left field line. Schroeder on the run, won't get to it as it bounces into the corner. The 9th pitch of this at-bat. So again, Kayla Garcia doing a nice job of seeing a lot of pitches.
And she does this back-to-back ABs because that last at-bat was yesterday's game, was her last at-bat of the game, and this is now her first at-bat of this game. So just seeing so many pitches from the Alabama pitching staff.
This time she could not hold back. Strike 3. So Cornell will win this battle.
And you see, same thing, the sequence, but this time her barrel fires a little bit more. Didn't want to fully swing at that one, but couldn't hold her barrel back and ends up with a strikeout.
So with 2 outs, Danny Elder still sitting over at second base for Texas A&M. It's going to bring up the junior second baseman, Kelly Martinez. Martinez, the hero in Wednesday night's ball game against SFA. 15 innings of scoreless softball till Martinez finally hit the 2-run shot in the bottom of the 15th. This one lifted into center. Brown is going to go back to the warning track and make the catch. I think it went a little bit further than even Brown expected, but it will stay in the ballpark. Texas A&M threatens but is unable to score. Alabama with the 4-0 lead. Welcome back to Davis Diamond. Taking a look at the SEC softball standings, there is Alabama at the top, 4-0 in conference play. Kentucky dropping a game last night. Texas A&M down at the bottom. So truly, Tori, today's game, a meeting of the top and the bottom of this league.
And Alabama just holding the SEC seed like they are in the national seed. They're the top of the pack in the SEC and the 3rd team in the nation. So that holds pretty true for me whenever I look at standings.
Maris Schroeder is going to start things off for the Tide, and Alabama improving to a perfect 32-0 after last night's game. They are now only the 5th time in NCAA history to have this good of a start. Check swing on that off-speed pitch. And that's strike 2. Nice job right there by Potts.
That's a pretty floaty changeup right there, right at her eyes. Makes it a little bit harder. I think she thought it was going to be a rise ball similar to the one that Potts has been throwing, and realized at the last moment, hey, that's a little slower than the last one I saw.
This one ripped out into the center field. It will leave the park. A no-ball, 2-strike home run for Maris Schroeder. It is her 2nd of the series.
And Schroeder got fooled on that changeup and was not going to get fooled again. She took a pitch that was a little bit too sweet and up in the zone on the outer half and just gets her barrel to this ball. You'll see her backside firing very aggressively to that ball, is able to square it up, get a great extension, and it ends up over the wall.
Schroeder's 8th home run of the season, her 2nd on the weekend here in College Station, and just a big mistake right there by Kendall Potts with that 0-2 pitch. Reagan Dykes steps in, takes the first pitch for a ball.
I feel like that's a storyline we hear pretty often from the A&M pitching staff is 0-2 home runs, and it just comes down to leaving pitches too sweet on the plate when you're ahead in the count. If you're ahead in the count, you need to be throwing the ball 6 inches out, make them try to chase something and not letting them hit an actual strike, making them get themselves out and get ahead of themselves rather than trying to bring it right back in the strike zone again.
And not even just 0-2 home runs, 0-2 hits, and allowing hitters to just get a nice barrel on the ball. And as you mentioned, that ball shouldn't even be close to the plate.
And a lot of times you do have to just tip your hat to hitters. They'll make a good swing on a pitcher's pitch, but oftentimes we're seeing too good of pitches come across the plate and giving these hitters more of an opportunity than they should have with an 0-2 pitch.
And now Potts struggling to find the strike zone. 3 balls, no strikes to Dykes, who did have a walk in the first inning.
And we will see McBride heading over there to the bullpen, try to get something going. I'm assuming with the walk here, not something A&M would really like.
And there it is. So after the solo shot by Schroeder, a 4-pitch walk to Reagan Dykes. And Peyton Mcbride is down in the bullpen for Texas A&M, starting to warm it up.
And as a pitcher, when you give up a home run, if you're competitive, you should be going after that next hitter. And I think as a defense, when you're sitting behind them, if they give up a walk after a home run, it's like, are you trying to fight still, or are we still in this?
Bunted foul by Maddie Morgan. And you bring that up yesterday in the first inning when Kayla Pointer gave up the 3-run shot to Bailey Hemphill. She came out and struck out the next 2 hitters. And you talked about how impressive that was, that she didn't let that home run get to her. If anything, it made her a little bit more competitive, wanting to get that next at-bat.
And if someone beats you, you're not going to try to just give someone a free pass. You're trying to go after them. And as an infield, when she did have those 2 strikeouts yesterday, Pointer, you saw how fired up the defense was, because those are huge outs. When someone hits a home run off of you, they just beat you. And they just put up 3 runs with 1 swing. And when you're able to come back and sit the next 2 hitters down and then have the 3rd one ground out, that's a big deal right there. And you should be hype, and a pitcher should want to do that and go after that hitter. And just giving them a free pass just kind of feels like you're like, home run, it's okay, we'll get him next time. Your competitive juices should be really flowing.
Maddie Morgan unable to put the bunt down on 2 pitches in a row. That 0-2 pitch does miss. So 1 ball, 2 strikes, runner at first for Alabama. Another off-speed pitch. This time Morgan able to just get a piece of it and fight that one off. Dykes over at first, does have 2 stolen bases on the season.
Catcher with some wheels.
Yeah, Dykes starting in the designated player position in today's lineup, but does typically start at catcher. Maddie Morgan trying to get the bunt down, will not make it happen, so that will be out number 1.
That's such a Patrick Murphy move right there. When he tells you to get a bunt down, you better get it down. 2 strikes, I don't care. You're going to bunt again until you get it down. And I think that's why his players are held to such a high standard, is because he expects that out of them. And an execution for a sacrifice bunt is the first strike, getting it on the ground. And if you can't do it the first time, he's going to make you do it until you can, even if that means you get out on an attempt sacrifice bunt.
And that does go down in the books as a strikeout. So 2 strikeouts on the day for Kendall Potts. Skyler Wallace now up to bat for Alabama. Over 1 on the day. Grounded out right back to Potts to end the first inning. Potts really working the outside part of the plate. This one misses for ball 2. 2 balls, 1 strike. Potts at 80 pitches so far on the game. Potts started her career at Baylor University. Wallace also having trouble getting this bunt down. 2 balls, 2 strikes. As I said, Potts started at Baylor, was injured in 2017, and then sat out completely from the game in 2018. And Tori, you asked her, what was it like completely sitting out for a year and then coming back?
She felt like she was supposed to be there, but she felt almost like it was starting over. So she didn't quite feel like a freshman, but it did feel weird coming back and already being an upperclassman and missing a whole entire year where you are usually working, putting in extra reps in the off season and getting stuff done. So she said it was kind of like coming home after a long vacation.
Full count to Wallace. Here's the 3-2 pitch. Dykes running on that pitch. This one fouled off. Dykes will head back to first.
Ouch.
Yeah, that one looked like it got right off of her leg.
If you've never experienced a ball off of the bat into your shin or ankle or knee or thigh, it hurts. Do not recommend.
And most hitters will wear some kind of protection. Wallace, however, does not. This one pops straight back. It's coming for us, Tori. It's going to fall just short.
Man, I'm up on my feet. I'm ready to catch this ball right now.
I will say there's a great catch right there by an Aggie fan. I will say I love having you up in the booth because most people would shy away from a foul ball. Tori is like standing up, ready to go, like might even go out the window if I let her. I would hold you back though.
It's my first base
as long as you were protecting me, I would definitely hold you back. So
grab my feet. I'm ready to just catch anything.
She is. She's like up and at him, ready to go anytime a foul ball comes close. This one just misses low and outside. So ball 4 to Skyler Wallace as she really battled during that at-bat. Dykes will head down to second. So Kendall Potts, again, struggling right here in the circle. Second walk of the inning. And we talked about just free passes and how that has really been a tough spot for this A&M pitching staff this year, whether it's walks or hitting batters. And the number is pretty staggering when you start to think about it.
And I think that's why situations start to spiral so quickly when A&M is on defense, because they're letting people just walk to first base and not making them earn it. So when they do put it in play, there's already runners in motion and gonna cross the plate a lot easier rather than getting 3-4 hits in a row. You're just letting them have that, and then you put them in scoring position already.
Texas A&M, 124 free passes total. Ground ball to the left side. Garcia picks it up, tries to apply the tag, and they are actually going to call Alyssa Brown out, the hitter, saying that she was out of the box when she made contact with this ball.
And that will be a dead ball, so runners will go back, but you'll see Alyssa Brown right here. Oh, yeah, that back foot was in front of the box. So when we're talking about the line and then the box, or excuse me, home plate and then the line of the hitter's box, she was in front of that line closer to home plate. And the new rule, they did change it, I think 2 years ago. No part of your foot can be outside of the box. It can be touching the line, but as soon as a part of your foot is out of the box, you're automatically out, compared to the old rule where your whole foot could be on the line. You just couldn't have your whole foot off the or out of the box. So a big change for slappers.
A big change, and it made it a lot easier for umpires, I think, because now they just have to see a part of the foot. They don't have to see the whole foot out of the box. And so a great call right there by Anthony Small. Alyssa Brown just too far out, had a piece of that foot. So she is called out. Runners will return. So runners at first and second. So the top of the order for the Crimson Tide, Kaylee Tao. And that's a big break right there for Texas A&M, because Garcia fielded that ball, tried to apply the tag to Dykes, and I don't know if she had her. It looks like she might have missed her on the tag. And so instead of bases loaded, 1 out, you've now still got runners just at first and second with 2 outs. Another ball from Potts. I was talking about before that ground ball by Brown, the free passes. And so far, total 124 free passes. That's walks combined with hit by pitches for the A&M pitching staff. Alabama had 67 coming into this ball game. And so just taking a look at the comparison of those numbers, and it has really been a big reason why I think this A&M pitching staff has struggled, and then defensively just putting a lot of pressure on it as well.
And you'll see 40 number difference in walks allowed, which a free pass is just literally telling you the story. It's a free pass. You're not making them work for that runner on base. You're just letting them have it. And especially when hitters are designed to fail, we talked about this yesterday, it's a pitcher's game. You're supposed to fail as a hitter. You can only get on 3 out of 10 times and you're still considered one of the greats. So for them, they just need to attack the strike zone. Quit trying to beat around the strike zone and be too careful, too dainty with that strike zone. Go at them, be aggressive, and drill it in there, make them hit the ball.
Here's the 3-2 to Tao. And this one misses. Another free pass from Kendall Potts, and that'll load things up for Alabama. Kayla Tao came into this ball game, came into the weekend leading the NCAA in walks. She had 3 last night, and she already has 2 on the day. Such a disciplined hitter, and that's going to bring out head coach Joe Evans. Tori, right now, thinking about the situation that both of these teams are in. Alabama, you've got the 5-0 lead. Texas A&M, obviously struggling a little bit, hasn't scored a run yet. What is the attitude defensively right here for A&M? And then after that, offensively, what does Alabama need to do right here with 2 outs?
Well, on the defense standpoint, I can see, I'm looking at Coach Joe Evans talking to her defense, and she's pointing to every single person, pointing at her paper where she's most likely tracking where everybody's gone in their past at-bats. And KB Sides had a hard-hit ground ball to third base and then a line out. So she's a line out to left field. So she's pretty much staying on the left side of the field. So knowing what the left side is going to do, how they're going to pitch her, what they need to expect to do on this play, wherever she puts it in play if she does. And then offensively, Alabama just needs to focus on squaring the ball up. I mean, they've already scored 5 runs. They're seeing the ball well. Just have to continue to swing at good pitches and be patient.
And you mentioned KB Sides with the way she swung at the ball in her first 2 at-bats. She is pretty much due for a base hit right here. We'll see if she can get it done. First pitch is a ball. Dykes at third, Wallace at second, Tao at first for Alabama. This one just misses low and outside. A good eye right there by KB Sides. Potts trying to work that outside part of the plate and just not getting the call. Another pitch misses low. 3 balls, no strikes. Sides only hitting 143 with bases loaded on the season. Is hitting 310 with runners in scoring position. And that one misses for ball 4. So a run will be walked in right here as Reagan Dykes scores and Alabama goes up 6-0.
And that right there is probably one of the most deflating things as a defense, just watching someone walk across the plate with no ball in play. And that's a tough pill to swallow. Walking in a run is very tough to watch because you just give it to them and they didn't put the ball in play. She didn't even swing her bat. So she's just walking across, and that's why Coach Evans will send Peyton Mcbride out to the mound, and that will be it for Kendall Potts today.
8 walks on the day for Potts. We'll talk more about Peyton Mcbride when we come back after this. We might see her, and now we will. It's the junior number 5, Peyton Mcbride, in the circle for Texas A&M.
And we talked earlier today about Peyton Mcbride being such a good complement to Kendall Potts because Kendall Kendall Potts throws hard and will stay east to west. Not as much spinny stuff. We did see a changeup from her, but then Peyton Mcbride will come in, drop the miles per hour about 10, maybe even 12, depending on what pitch she's throwing. But she will throw to all 4 quadrants and use a lot of different speeds with each pitch that she does have. So it will be a bit of adjustment for these Alabama hitters.
And she's going to have a very tough test in her first at-bat. It's Bailey Hemphill, the catcher in today's ball game, who has just been really lights out for Alabama this year. Ripped into left field, going back, it is gone! Grand slam, Bailey Hemphill.
What an incredible swing by Bailey Hemphill, taking complete advantage and not wasting time getting adjusted to the speed change from Potts to McBride. She just waits on her pitch, takes the first pitch for a ball, and then sees this pitch breaking back into her with Peyton McBride being a lefty and exploding on this ball, stays so extremely stacked. This ball was on a line, got out of the ballpark so fast, absolute no doubter by Bailey Hemphill. The only question was it going to be high enough? Regardless of how high it was, this ball was a bullet and just an incredible swing, and that goes back to having that walk with KB Sides. You did not want to face Bailey Hemphill with the bases loaded, and by walking KB Sides, you faced one of the most dangerous hitters in the NCAA with the bases loaded.
It was Hemphill's 15th home run on the season. It is her second grand slam. She had one back against Niagara on March 14th. And you're right, Tori, as soon as it came off the bat, you knew it was going to be a hard hit ball, but it just wasn't sure if it was going to clear. That ball got out of the park so fast and just showed how much power Bailey Hemphill has. But quickly down in the count is Claire Jenkins. No balls, 2 strikes. The 4th grand slam on the year for Alabama. And the Crimson Tide now have a commanding 10-0 lead in the 3rd inning. So a ripped foul.
And the hard part about that is McBride coming in, and every single runner that scored was on because of a walk. Skyler Wallace walked. Kaylee Towle walked. KB Sides walked. So 3 walked batters, and then you face the most dangerous hitter in the NCAA, and that's the absolute last thing you want, and especially on the second pitch of your outing.
Swing and a miss. Elder is able to hang on, so a strikeout to Claire Jenkins will end things, but not before Alabama is able to do a lot of damage here in the 3rd. 6 runs, 4 of them coming off of this grand slam by Bailey Hemphill. Can Texas A&M answer back? We'll find out when we come back. Welcome back, Alabama with the 10-0 lead, and here's how it happened.
Just getting it started very early, almost like an identical game of yesterday. Alabama just getting it done early in the 1st inning, and then coming back, Mara Schroeder with her 2nd home run of this series, and then what we just saw, Hemphill with the grand slam. Just an incredible swing by Hemphill, and what a game for the Crimson Tide.
Yeah, they have really done it, and we talked about it. You know, Mara Schroeder with the single that kind of opened things up, and then Bailey Hemphill with the grand slam after Schroeder's home run. So you're talking about 2 players right there, but everything that their teammates had to do ahead of them to be on base, and that's, you know, something that you really have to take into consideration as well. Alabama really getting it done from top to bottom in this order.
And the good thing that Alabama is doing is just keeping the rally going. You always hear one hit starts the rally and pass the bat back, and that's something that they're doing very well, is they're taking the momentum from those hits, from those walks, and keeping it going. They're not having very short innings. They're extending those innings, getting a lot of runners on, putting a lot of runs on the board, and everyone is producing top to bottom.
Actually going to have a pinch hitter here for Texas A&M. It's number 23, the freshman Morgan Smith. She's pinch hitting for Tadria Cini there in the 9-hole spot. quickly ahead in this count. 3 balls, no strikes. Smith, one of 2 Smiths, well, technically one of 3 Smiths on the team, but does have a twin sister, Megan, also on the team. Not related to Abby Smith, the other Smith for Texas A&M. Right now, Hemphill going out just to kind of calm down Cornell. There's a look at her twin sister, Megan. And I love Coach Evans talking about this before the season, said they could not be more different, even though they are twin sisters.
One is very outgoing, very extroverted, super into like social life, and then Morgan, you'll see here, is very introverted, cares a lot about school. Not that the other one doesn't, but just very focused on her schoolwork and has a very hard major. I'm not sure what it is. It's like BIMS or a very scientific
something that you and I would not have touched,
not
right? Yeah, exactly. Both of them from Lake Jackson, Texas, played high school ball at Brazos Wood. And Morgan Smith doing exactly what you need to do in a pinch hit situation, and that's get on base.
And if I'm right, they're still sticking to that first or taking until you get a strike. So didn't even have to swing at a pitch right there and just getting the job done. Leadoff walk. It's exactly what you want.
That's going to bring up the top of the order for Texas A&M. Kelby Fortenberry, 0 for 1 on the day. Grounded out to the shortstop in her first at-bat. Fortenberry hitting a team-high .419. Lifts this one into left field, and there's a base hit for the junior. Texas A&M getting something started here in the bottom of the third.
And Kelby Fortenberry, one of the hottest hitters in this lineup. What I love, goes up to get a high pitch, keeps her barrel really flat through the zone, and doesn't try to do too much with this pitch. It's very easy to swing really hard at a rise ball, thinking you're going to hit it out. But when you look at the scoreboard, it's 10-0. You're not going to win the ball game right there with one big swing, knowing she has to keep it simple, gets on base with a single, and gets a runner in scoring position.
So that'll bring up Blake Ann Fritch, the left fielder for Texas A&M. Shows bunt, takes back, but it is called a strike. Fritch walked in the first inning. Speed on the base path for Texas A&M. Smith at second, Fortenberry at first. Fritch lays the bunt down. The throw is going to get away. But right now I'm seeing Anthony Small, the home plate umpire, calling Blake Ann Fritch out. So I do believe it is going to be the same ruling that we had for Alyssa Brown, that maybe Fritch was partially out of the box when she made contact with this ball.
And we talked about this rule change, this new rule change, when Alyssa Brown was called for it, and you can see Blake Ann stepping over that line once again. Her foot is out of the box when she's making contact with this ball, and so the home plate umpire will say dead ball. Runners will go back to where they started, but that just shows you how important that run on second base is. They don't want to go down with a goose egg up on the board. They need to score a run here to keep the momentum going, keep them in this game, and not get defeated.
That's a really tough break right there for Texas A&M. Runners will go back to first and second. It does go down as a out for Blake Ann Fritch. First pitch fouled off from Bailey Klingler.
And that's a tough break there, considering it was a bad throw, and Wallace had to kind of reach around Fritch there. Would have been an RBI with an error.
Coach Joe Evans obviously not happy with the call, just unhappy about the break that A&M didn't get right there. It would have been a really, really big break because that throw got away from Alabama, and so all runners would have been safe had that play stood. Klingler 0 for 1 on the day, did reach on a fielder's choice, had a shot up the middle that Claire Jenkins made a spectacular play on back in the first inning. Rise ball misses up out of the zone. 2 balls, 1 strike. Klingler hitting .315 on the season. Does have 2 home runs. Cornell in the circle for Alabama just hit 50 pitches on the game. Klingler chases that one, gets a piece, but Hemphill able to hold on for strike number 2.
And when we talked to Coach Evans before the series yesterday, she talked about the maturity of Bailey Klingler and just how she's grown as the season's going on. But right now, to me, it seems like she's very anxious. She's trying to be that one, but in this situation, you're not going to win the game with one swing. You need to just try to get a barrel on something, maybe shoot it into a gap, get one run across the board. You don't need to shoot for 3 here. You just need 1.
A full count now to Bailey Klingler with runners at first and second. 1 out. Texas A&M trying to score the first run of the game right here. Pops this one up. It's going to stay on the infield. Hemphill will get under it and make the catch for out number 2.
Klingler just getting under that ball and getting handcuffed, got on her handle right there and not quite doing her job. Wanted to get a runner across, but I think a little bit too big of a swing with a 3-2. Just want to put a barrel on something. Don't try to hit it too hard. Just barrel it up and good things will happen.
And a nice catch right there by Bailey Hemphill. That ball, anytime a pop-up comes to a catcher, it is going to spin really, really awkwardly. And so she did a nice job of getting under that and making the catch. And those pop-ups tend to be the highest ones that are hit too. And to be a catcher and have to get up and looking straight up like that, it's an athletic play right there.
And you'll see the catcher, often catchers will turn around so that the spin of the ball is in their favor and not going against them, so it spins into the glove opposed to being straight on facing the field and it spinning out of your glove if you mishandle it.
2 balls, no strikes to Riley Sartain. Sartain 0 for 1 on the day with a strikeout back in the first inning. Another thing I like that Hemphill did was she took her mask off. She had time. She took her mask off. She got it out of the way. It gave her a better vision of that ball as well. Sartain just gets under this pitch, fouls it back to the screen for strike number 1. Morgan Smith still sitting over at first base. She had a leadoff walk. Smith at second, Fortenberry at first. But then 2 outs for Sara Cornell in the circle. Trying to get the third one right here. She'll be down in the count. 3 balls, 1 strike. Sartain with a hitter's count. Looking to make something happen right here for the Aggies.
And this will be big if the Aggies can get this run that's on second in scoring position across the plate, because like we saw yesterday, had a very, very low percentage with runners in scoring position, and this is where they need to turn the tables, especially with getting a leadoff walk. They need to make it happen.
Sartain pops this one back. This one's actually going to go over the roof. Tori was ready again. You're gonna get one eventually.
I need to bring my glove.
I told you that yesterday, and you said, I don't need a glove.
Well,
just go
now
barehanded.
That I'm thinking about it, with all that spin, it might hurt just a little bit.
Full count with 2 outs. Runners will be moving on the pitch. And she gets her looking. Strike number 3, the second strikeout of the day for Riley Sartain, and it was a big one for Cornell. Texas A&M gets 2 runners on but can't get anything across. Alabama keeps the 10-0 lead. Welcome back to Davis Diamond. Alabama with the commanding 10-0 lead as we head into the 4th inning. And up here in the booth, we are joined by one of our very own, Amanda Scarborough. Welcome to the booth.
Hey, guys. How's it going?
It's going well. It's going well. Thanks for joining us. So even when you're not actually not calling games, you're out at the softball field.
Yeah, well, this doesn't ever happen that I just get to be a fan, ever. I think this is the first time in probably 8 to 10 years that I can just come to a ballpark, watch a game, and not have to call a game before or after. So I'm in heaven right now. This has been the best weekend.
Well, we are still going to get, of course, your take on what has happened so far this weekend. What have you seen from Alabama, obviously, with the run rule victory last night and this 10-run lead right now?
Their offense, to me, is just so versatile. They have a little bit of speed, power from both sides of the plate, like Amaris Schroeder, who's coming up, hit a couple of home runs. By the way, I'm so happy for her being a senior from the Houston area. And, of course, get to hit a couple of home runs with all of her family. But that's what I think I see out of their offense, is that they just are so deep and have so many different types of talent, whether it's a slapper who's just going to lay a bunt down with speed, or actually, a slapper who can keep her feet still and hit out of the park like a Skyler Wallace.
Schroeder 2 for 2 on the day, did have that home run in the last inning. Lifts this one, it'll stay in the infield. Kayla Garcia gets under it and makes the out for out number 1.
Well, and then, too, getting to see Montana Fouts pitch in person. I've seen her pitch, the past couple of months, and because she's a freshman, but to see her out there and compete, I knew that she had good stuff and she was going to throw hard, but to see her game face, because off the field, I got a chance to talk to her. She's so sweet, so nice, but you see her in the circle, she means business. She is fierce, she wants to win, and she's so competitive, so it's cool to get to see that side of her as well.
Reagan Dykes steps in for Alabama.
It's nice to have a pitcher up here in the booth. Now we can get all of our pitcher questions answered.
I was going to say, we try as hard as we can to kind of say what the pitchers might be doing or thinking or feeling. But, of course, neither one of us can really talk to that very much.
What are you guys talking about? Tori is as good as being a pitcher.
And we do talk about that. As a hitter, there's so much of that mind game.
Yeah.
And you almost think like a pitcher when you're that good of a hitter. And so it has been fun to kind of get her take on, well, what would you think they're going to throw in this situation?
Right. Tori's got a great curveball. So, I mean, you could put Tori out there right now. She could throw a backdoor curve, regular curve, and get some strikeouts.
I was the 8th-string pitcher last year. You didn't know that?
You wear that badge proudly.
That somehow got buried in my notes last year. I guess I didn't know that. But
Well, it's funny because Amanda and I worked together with Package Deal, and Amanda is the lead pitching instructor for the Package Deal, and oftentimes I will be recruited to go to the pitching side, more so because, not because I like it more, which maybe I do, but because I know so much more about pitching than I do about catching, because I just play around with it, and my teammates would give me lessons, and even Amanda would be like, hey, try maybe like keeping your core tight or tucking your elbow or whatever it may be, and it fixes it. So
you better be careful, because Jen Schroeder's listening right now on a plane. So.
Hey, Jen.
Dykes lifts this one down the right field line. It will be foul, and that'll actually bring up a defensive change that Texas A&M has made. Kylie George, the sophomore, is out in right field, number 4. We saw the pinch hit situation with Morgan Smith hitting for Tadria Sinney, and so then Kylie George is going to be the defensive change in that spot. George, the sophomore from Crosby, Texas. Chase down that foul ball. Next pitch is a ball. So 2 balls, 2 strikes to Reagan Dykes. She has walked twice on the day. And, Amanda, that's one thing we've talked about, walks, free passes, and how that has really been a tough spot for this A&M pitching staff this year.
Yeah, and I've noticed it too, and it's not the walks come at unideal times with the bases loaded or leadoff walks, and against a good team like Alabama, who, by the way, they're just so confident. I mean, that's another thing that I noticed top to bottom. They came in here undefeated with a ton of confidence all over the field in the dugout. You can see that. They're just tough to go up against.
So it ripped into the left center gap. It'll get through. Dykes will head to second. And a stand-up double for Reagan Dykes with 1 out here in the top of the 4th.
And just taking advantage of that 3-2 count. She's knowing that Peyton Mcbride is not going to want to walk her. She's going to throw something pretty sweet. And Reagan Dykes takes a great swing on the outer half, drives this ball into the gap, and just a no-doubt double.
We're going to have a pinch hitter now for Alabama. It's going to be number 10, Kayla Davis, who is going to hit for Maddie Morgan here in the 7 spot.
And that leads me to believe that Patrick Murphy was not happy about Maddie Morgan getting that bunt down.
Not getting that bunt down,
not getting
ending
that
up with
bunt
a
down.
strikeout back in the 3rd.
Could be just chance, but you never know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Morgan was 0 for 2 on the day. And we're actually also going to have a pitching change for Texas A&M as Peyton Mcbride leaves the field. We will stay here. We're going to see what Coach Joe Evans has decided to do in this lineup. Is this a quick change to you, Amanda, or Tori? Either one?
Go ahead, Tori.
I mean,
are you surprised to see McBride leaving the game right here?
I am a little surprised. I mean, she only had a double off of her and wasn't expecting. Normally, you expect Peyton Mcbride to go in and get a lot of miss hits and pop flies and things, obviously not squaring it up, but I didn't see a ton, and I'm actually not seeing anybody come out to the circle, so maybe Riley Sartain's going to pitch?
Yeah, could be. I think, too, you have to think about Game 3 tomorrow, mm-hmm. and that Peyton might not have had her best game, but you hope that tomorrow that she comes back out and has better stuff, and you can better serve her in a closer type game rather than being down by 10 runs. So, yeah, she might not have had her best stuff, but you're down 10-0. You want her to come back out with a chance to win Game 3 tomorrow and maybe be able to steal. I'm not saying that they can't come back here, but you look at the score and think that your chances are more limited today.
And it will be the freshman from Corpus Christi, number 14, Hannah Mayo. We did see her in yesterday's ball game come in for Kayla Pointer. What is she going to bring to the table, Tori, that especially we talked about the difference between Potts and McBride, and now you've got even a third different style of pitcher in Hannah Mayo.
Mayo's going to be in between Potts and McBride speed-wise, going to bring a little bit of the same stuff when it comes to pitches. She's going to work east to west. But a problem that she's been facing all season has been walks, which we can say for a lot of the A&M pitching staff. And today, with a lead that Alabama has right now, she just needs to attack and not give them any more leeway for them to take advantage of.
As we mentioned, the first hitter that she will face will be a pinch hitter. Number 10, Kayla Davis, the freshman from Hueytown, Alabama. And something interesting, talking to Coach Murphy before the game, with 5 pitchers on the team who don't hit, and then your other starters, you really only have 4 players on the roster in pinch hit or pinch running situations. We saw one last night, but there's not a whole lot of change in this lineup typically.
Just keeping a lot of consistency. Like I was talking about yesterday, they know what to expect. They know who's going to come in. They know who's most likely to pinch hit, pinch run. Makes them ready for that opportunity.
Davis swinging at the first pitch. It's a slow roller over to second, but Martinez will make the play in time. Dykes will advance to third. Texas A&M does have 2 outs.
I would have liked to see her take a pitch right there, especially being a pinch hitter coming off the bench, cold, not knowing what to expect, and with a new pitcher in the circle. They did see her yesterday, so they know what she's bringing to the table, but at the same time, it's different when you're in the box rather than when you're watching from the dugout.
Skyler Wallace steps in. 0 for 1 on the day, did have a walk back in the 3rd inning.
You know, Skyler Wallace is, too, another player who is just so good, so talented, just a freshman. She's on the junior national team along with Montana Fouts. So you think about Alabama being good for a few years. I mean, Montana Fouts was just such a big recruit for Alabama. She's the type of girl, the type of player that you hope and dream as a coach that you're going to see her along the recruiting trail, and that she decides to come to your team. I mean, she's a once-in-a-decade type pitcher that you're able to get.
Well, in talking to Coach Murphy, he said one of the, if not the toughest position to recruit is that pitcher position, because you see so many really talented pitchers in high school who don't necessarily amount to much in college. Yeah. And he said, we got so lucky with Fouts because she is everything we wanted and more. This one lifted out into center, but Kelby Fortenberry will make the snag for out number 3. So Alabama does not able to score in this inning. They still have a commanding 10-0 lead as we head into the bottom of the 4th. Welcome back to college softball on the SEC Network. Number 3, Alabama with a 10-0 lead over the home team, Texas A&M. Alabama moving one spot up in the polls this week to that number 3 spot, just behind UCLA and Oklahoma. And Amanda and Tori, looking at how Alabama is undefeated, UCLA and Oklahoma both with at least one loss. Just talk about strength of schedule and why the rankings kind of are the way they are right here.
To me, it does come down to strength of schedule, and you see Oklahoma does have 2 losses, but one of them was to UCLA. So you know that they're playing teams of good caliber, and they're challenging themselves in their preseason games. And I think Alabama hasn't had as many tough games. I mean, they did play Minnesota, a doubleheader in a midweek, but I think that is just not enough for them to be number 1.
Yeah, Minnesota and Arizona were their 2 ranked opponents that they have faced this year. But other than that, I don't want to say by any means it's been an easy path for Alabama, but we just haven't seen them kind of go up against the caliber of teams that those other 2 there in the top 3 have.
Yeah, and Tori, you hit the nail on the head. And it's 2, I think Coach Murphy knew that this is going to be a younger Alabama team. So as a coach, you schedule around what you think that your team is going to give you. So knowing that he would have a bunch of youth, especially in the circle, losing Alexis Osorio was going to be big. He wanted them to get confidence in the beginning of the year and not go out right away and play someone like a UCLA team and have the potential to get beat up and lose their confidence early in the season, knowing that, the SEC is going to be tough as it is.
Yeah, talking about the SEC being tough, Alabama joined by 3 other teams there in the top 10, Tennessee, LSU, and Florida. And Amanda, for someone who calls games on a regular basis, we can't say it enough. The strength of this conference is almost unmatched.
Yeah, and 2 top to bottom. And we saw it with the Pac last year, too, top to bottom, but they lost a lot of, to me, key players like a G. Juarez, who moved from Arizona State to Oklahoma, and a Megan Kleiss, who decided to take a year off from Oregon. So the pitching that they lost, to me, really hurt the Pac-12, but to me, UCLA is truly the number 1 best team in the country and a true national contender to win a title.
Danny Elder lifts this one over the third baseman's head, but it'll just be foul. Keeps the count at 2 balls and 2 strikes.
Yeah, I think that's, too, the talk around the country is that it's UCLA's year. UCLA is going to be the team to beat between them and Oklahoma. I think that they're just slightly on a different level. And that's nothing against Alabama, but they do have that youth where you don't know what you're going to get out of them in the circle, where UCLA has a Rachel Garcia who could beat anybody at any point of the year, and you know what you're going to get from her in Oklahoma City because she's been there.
So it just misses outside to bring the count. 3 balls, 2 strikes, and UCLA is someone that was on Texas A&M's schedule this year. Unfortunately, that game got rained out at the Mary Nutter Classic. And I think, even going up, they were ranked 2 at the time in the country. That would have been a great test for Texas A&M.
Yeah. To go against last year's National Player of the Year, Rachel Garcia.
Elder lifts this one to left field. It's going back. Schroeder on the run. It's going to get over Schroeder's head, hit the warning track, a stand-up double to lead things off for Danny Elder. And Tori, Elder is just on fire this weekend.
I talked last time she came up to the plate about how she's keeping her foot on the gas pedal and taking advantage of those opportunities. And she just takes a pitch that's a little too sweet on the inside half and gets her barrel to it, just gets under it a tad bit. That's why you see it hit the wall and not go out. Thought it had a chance there at the beginning, maybe if it got up in that wind tunnel, but hits off the wall, a double for Danny Elder, and she is on fire this weekend.
And, sometimes when hitters are going through slumps, it's like they just can't get anything going on. On the flip side, when a hitter is just swinging, everything looks like a beach ball sometimes, right? Where it's like you could swing at anything and still get a base hit. And I feel like that's going through Danny Elder right now.
Sometimes I feel like you could even close your eyes and still hit it when you're on fire.
Yeah. So Elder with the leadoff double to start things off here in the bottom of the 4th. Peyton Mcbride now up to bat. Stays in the lineup, in the hitting lineup, even though she is not pitching anymore. This one lifted down the left field line. Schroeder almost with a great sliding catch into the wall and just barely came up with that one.
And if Schroeder would have come up with that ball, not only would it have been a great catch, but Danny Elder did something really great there that you won't see on screen Mary Schroeder's going after this ball. Danny Elder immediately goes back to tag up at second base, knowing that if Mary Schroeder lays out for this ball, she can tag up from second, get herself to third with a ball that's not even put in between the white lines.
And that still would have been a very productive out for Texas A&M. McBride had a sac bunt in her first at-bat, hitting .323 on the season. Oh, and just catches the inside part of the plate for strike 2. Something we've been talking about earlier in the game too, Amanda, is the strike zone this game and how it's been pretty tight and it's been even. Both teams have had to deal with it. But as a pitcher, what's your mental game when you realize, okay, this is going to be a tough game to pitch, or it's going to be a tough game to get strikes called?
It's really hard not to get frustrated. I mean, you're, as much as you want to say, okay, just take it one pitch at a time and move it in a little bit, well, it's difficult because you're going up against some of the best hitters in the country. So to move it in a little bit makes it from like a pitcher's pitch where you're feeling great about it to a pitch that could potentially get hit out of the ballpark. And you know that as a pitcher too, that those little small differences make big differences with the outcome. So it puts a lot of pressure on a pitcher in this circle, and it's hard not to get frustrated with it, but that's why you play since you're like 8 years old, and you've always had a tough umpire that you've gone up against. You've been experienced with it.
Someone who knows that very well is Peyton Mcbride. Here's the 2-2 pitch. Right back up the middle. This one will get through. They'll send Elder. Here comes the throw from Brown. It's not in time. An RBI single for Peyton Mcbride.
Great job of McBride there, stepping up, the first one to do it today with runners in scoring position, and just takes this high pitch, keeps a flat barrel through the zone. So important on a pitch up in the zone, drives it right back up the middle, and Danny Elder getting a great jump on the ball and getting across home plate. Just a great job by Peyton Mcbride, getting it done, keeping it simple.
And it was Peyton McBride's RBI yesterday that got Texas A&M on the board. So another big hit for the junior. Pinch running over at first base. It's going to be the freshman, number 12, Maddie Yatzlaw. Yatzlaw wearing that coveted number 12. We talked to Coach Evans before the season. Number 12 carries such a meaning here at Texas A&M, and she said that Maddie Yatzlaw, she kind of embodies everything you want in a player that wears number 12. She's a hard worker. A&M means a lot to her. Both of her parents were Aggies. She's all about the tradition.
Who was number 12 before her?
Brittany Clopton.
Okay.
So that was the only year. My freshman year, 2015, was the only year that I played with a number 12. No one wore it after that. So, I mean, to wear number 12 is such a big deal.
And it's something, right, that Coach Evans asks of a player. It's
Yes.
not necessarily something you can
cannot
just pick.
request. Yeah, you cannot request
Right.
to wear number 12. I mean, I'm sure you can ask, but more times than not, the answer will be no, because she's saving it for that coveted player that she really feels like embodies the 12th man.
Pinch hitting is going to be the freshman, number 25, Haley Lee. Lee struggling last night at the plate, 0 for 3 with 3 strikeouts. And part of that is Lee just takes some big hacks. I mean, she is not going to get cheated, but you talked about Bailey Hemphill and how she is a power hitter that doesn't strike out a lot because she still just finds a way to put the barrel on the ball. And that's something that you would think with a little bit more time, only a freshman here is Lee, but something that she'll really have to kind of learn and try to be a little bit more controlled in some of these at-bats.
And I think it's part of the game to strike out. Everyone's going to have a couple strikeouts on their resume, no matter who you are. But when you are younger, it's hard to get into that mentality of just put a barrel on the ball. It doesn't have to be a home run every single at-bat.
It's hard, too, to forget that it's not even April yet. And so you still, while time is limited because it's going to come down to May, you still have time to be able to develop these players. In a game like here, you still want to have the quality at bats where your players are growing and developing and getting ready for the next series where maybe you can steal 1, 2 from the next opponent that you're going to play, because and it's hard as a player not to get caught up. Okay, we're losing 10-1. Okay, we're down whatever the score was yesterday. I can't remember, but it's hard not to get caught up in those numbers, but truly try to take every single at bat that comes your way and be able to build on it for each week that's ahead and each series that you have coming up.
Foul tip, but Hemphill able to hang on. So another strikeout there for Cornell. It is her 4th one on the day. And out number 1 for Texas A&M in this inning.
Haley Lee just getting outside of herself. A ball that's pretty far off the plate. And Haley Lee reaching with her arms, not staying very connected with her upper and lower half, and just swinging through that pitch right there.
That'll bring up the second baseman, Kelly Martinez. Swinging at the first pitch, lifted out into center field. Alyssa Brown gets under it and makes the catch for out number 2. We'll have another pinch hitter here for Texas A&M hitting in the 9 spot. It's going to be number 24, Abby Smith.
So Abby Smith will be one that you see off the bench quite often in this type of situation with runners on. When you want some runs across the board, will take her hack, similar to Haley Lee, is just someone that wants to swing the bat and it's not going to get cheated whatsoever.
Smith hitting .292 on the season, does have 3 home runs.
She came up in such a big opportunity yesterday, or in such a big spot with a big opportunity yesterday. A lot of confidence that Coach Evans has in her. You know, you see her put her into some spots where it's a must score, must have a hit right here type spot. And right now is one of the, I mean, you're technically running out of outs right now. You're down by 9. At this point in the game with the score as it is, you only have 4 outs left.
And I think Abby Smith is a player that has a lot of confidence in herself. And sometimes that's half the battle, is just getting someone to come off the bench, having that idea and that mentality that, hey, I can do this.
Yeah, it's one of the toughest things in our game is to be a pinch hitter. And it does take a special mentality, almost like a closer as a pitcher. You have to be ready whenever you haven't played 6 innings, 5 innings, to come out and still perform your best as if you've been playing that whole game.
This one pops straight up behind the plate. Hemphill will make the catch for out number 3. Well, Amanda Scarborough, thank you so much for joining us in the booth today. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks, Chelsea. Thanks, Tori.
Of course.
Alabama with the 10-1 lead. Texas A&M was able to get on the board here in the bottom of the 4th. We are headed to the 5th inning. Stay tuned. We'll be back after this. Alabama's offense has just continued from basically where it left off last night. Tori, 10 runs already on the day, only 5 hits. And you take a look at 2 errors on A&M's defense, and that has a little bit to do with it. But Alabama just really putting the pressure on with their bats.
And I think a big thing that stands out to me just watching this game overall is they only have 5 hits, but they have 8 walks. So A&M is just giving them runners on base. And then those 5 hits turn into successful ABs because there's already runners on and in scoring position.
That's a great point. 2 of those 5 hits were home runs with runners on, and so that has a lot to do with it as well. Again, a grand slam by Bailey Hemphill earlier in the game. Alyssa Brown now up to bat. She is 0 for 2 on the day. Was called for being out of the box in her last at-bat. Would have been safe at first. Grounded out in the 2nd inning.
When we talk about that slapper rule, or not slapper rule, but I guess just hitting rule overall, because it can apply to a righty also, but some umpires will call it multiple times a game, and then you see some umpires that will never call it. So I think that's so interesting as a slapper, having that mentality to know, man, that was a good hit. Oh, that other umpire wouldn't have called that one, but now I'm getting caught by this umpire, and that can be definitely a mental distraction or just kind of a a lapse when you're up to bat thinking about trying to keep your foot in the box.
Ball forward to Alyssa Brown. So a leadoff walk for Alabama. And if you're Hannah Mayo and the Aggies, that is not how you want to start off this inning.
Especially not to Brown. Of course, you never want to have a leadoff walk, but you definitely don't want to have a leadoff walk to Brown. You know, it's almost a guaranteed double because she is so fast and she has the ability to steal bases. And we'll see if she does it here.
23 stolen bases on the season. She takes off on the first pitch. The throw will get through, and she will head to third. We saw it happen last night. Alyssa Brown, basically a double steal right there. Anytime the ball gets through, she is so good at popping up and getting right over to third.
And something that's important to note is whenever she does steal, she is sliding on her right leg. So you see her shoulders facing towards the outfield. She can see if the ball gets past the shortstop, second baseman, whoever's taking that throw. So she's immediately able to pop up and take off to third. Rather, if she was sliding on her left leg, her shoulders would be in towards the field, not able to see a pass ball as easy.
Well, and if you're Kelby Fortenberry in center field, you're backing up, yes, but you're still all the way in center field. So even if you start trotting in when that throw happens, you would just have to be so close in order to get to that ball and make that throw in time.
And you have to stay pretty far back because you never know what the catcher is going to do. They could just sail one over your head, and if you're not far enough back, that's going to be a run because with Alyssa Brown's speed, or really anybody's speed, it would take less time to run to home base from second than an outfielder to go chase a ball down at the field and get it in.
You know, it's interesting, going back to that throw, I didn't think that throw from Danny Elder was that bad. It was a little to the right of the bag, but I think if you're Kayla Garcia, you've got to make that catch.
And that's where that third start of the year comes into play. She's not used to playing shortstop, has practiced at second all semester last semester in the fall semester and off season. And then even up until a couple weeks ago, I mean, she's been plugged in a couple times here and there, but that's still a position that she's not used to, especially with Danny Elder behind the plate.
Ground ball to the right side. Martinez will make the play, but Brown will easily score from third. So an RBI for Kaylee Tao puts Alabama up by 10.
And that's just great situational hitting right there by Tao. And what I love about Tao is that she's getting it done on all aspects. On this pitch, you'll see she gets jammed a little bit on the inside half and just is able to, on the outside half, and pulls it to the second baseman, knowing that Alyssa Brown is going to score on anything to the right side with her speed.
KB Sides 0 for 1 on the day. Did walk with bases loaded, so does have an RBI on the afternoon. Has hit the ball well this game, just kind of right at people.
I think she's due. She's been barreling up a lot of balls.
You called it, and then she walked, which, you know.
So this one technically, because the last one wasn't an official at bat.
There you go.
Maybe I can still be right.
I'll give it to you. 3 balls, no strikes to Sides. And ball 4. So another walk for KB Sides. And that is going to bring up Bailey Hemphill. And this is what she did in her last at-bat.
Absolutely crushed the ball, if that's what you're referring to.
A grand slam for Bailey Hemphill, and we both talked about it, Tori. That ball got out of this park so fast. It was a line drive. It was not a fly ball by any means.
And it would almost be similar probably to a pop time that you would see from a catcher because it got out so quick.
Mayo struggling to find the strike zone. Sides, a lot of speed at first. She's got 14 stolen bases on the season. That is second to Alyssa Brown. A look at pitching coach Kara Dill coming out to talk to Hannah, Mayo, and Elder. And so we've seen Coach Evans come out and talk to the team before. What constitutes Kara Dill coming out in this situation?
This situation is more about just the placement of your pitches. And right now, what are you throwing? What's working? What do you feel most comfortable throwing? What can we do to get this hitter out? And especially with Hemphill being up, you have to be smart. You have to know what the game plan is before you go into this at bat. So just probably refreshing the brain of what you need to do, what the game plan is, what you're going to throw her, and just give you a little bit more confidence facing a hitter that is so deadly.
Hemphill 1 for 2 on the day, hitting .351. Had a home run in yesterday's game as well. She leads the team with 15 homers. Mayo catches the inside part of the plate there for strike one. Coach Murphy looking on as his team holds this 10-run lead. I feel like that's a pretty good pitch right there by Mayo. Just missed on the inside part of the plate. So 3 balls, 1 strike to Bailey Hemphill. Hitters count with a runner at first. Crushes this one. It will be foul by a mile, but just again showing the pure power.
And it's hard to pitch to Hemphill because she can hit every single pitch with power. I've seen her take a changeup at her knees, oppo. I've seen her take a rise ball out of here, and I've seen her take a belt-high screwball out of here. So it's kind of tough. What do you pitch her?
That'll be ball 4. So 2 walks in a row from Hannah Mayo. Runners at first and second for Alabama. It'll bring up the cleanup hitter, the shortstop, Claire Jenkins.
Not a terrible walk right there. It may have been an intentional walk, but just trying to test the waters a little bit. But you do come up to Claire Jenkins, who has also done her fair share of power hitting this series.
We're going to have a pinch runner for Bailey Hemphill. It's going to be number 6, freshman Chloe Anderson. Anderson pinch ran in yesterday's ball game. Jenkins 0 for 2 on the day. Now hitting just under 300 at 293. Takes the first pitch for a strike. Great off-speed pitch right there by Mayo. Kendall Potts started this game for Texas A&M. Peyton Mcbride came in for a short amount of time. I thought Amanda made a good point, too, about saving Peyton Mcbride. She came in, wasn't necessarily getting it done as efficiently as they wanted, but still want to have her for tomorrow, and really didn't want to give this Alabama lineup too much time to see her. So it'll be foul past a diving Riley Sartain over at third base.
And that's such a good point that Amanda made, because when you do look at numbers, Peyton Mcbride is the ace of this pitching staff, and you're already down 10 runs. Well, I guess at the time 6, but you're down 6 runs. It's going to be hard to come back, and why not use her in a game where it's a very close game and let her use her stuff instead of kind of just throwing her out there when you already have runs put up on you. And so that's just giving them an extra time through the lineup that they would have to see her, and when you can just save her for tomorrow's game and try not to get swept.
And that's the thing, even if Texas A&M does end up dropping this game today, Alabama clinches the series. Every game is still so important, especially when you look towards postseason. Jams Jenkins, she's able to get just a piece of it. Count stays even at 2 balls, 2 strikes.
And I think it all comes back to just quality wins. And regardless of how many you have, any amount of quality wins helps you. And you look at A&M's schedule, LSU was a quality win for them. And then you look at Alabama, they're ranked high, but that may be the difference in maybe being a 4 seed or a 5 seed in the end of it. Because they only played Minnesota, which was a quality win for them, which they have a lot of wins, but they need quality top 25 wins to make a really good argument to get a higher seed.
And we talked about it. Arizona was ranked at the time, and then Minnesota, who they played twice. But those are the only top 25 ranked teams that they have played so far this season. And, of course, they will see ranked teams in SEC play. And I think that's going to be very interesting to see how Alabama fares against the teams like LSU and Kentucky and the other teams that they have left on their schedule.
Definitely games that I will be tuning into.
Here's the payoff pitch to Jenkins. Ripped foul. Alabama has scored 1 here in the top of the 5th, looking to add to it. Lifted into left field. Blake Ann Fritsch gets under it and makes the catch for out number 2. Runners will stay put. So a nice battle right there between Hannah Mayo and Claire Jenkins. Mayo coming out on top.
I think we've seen a lot of those long at-bats by the Alabama hitters, just fouling stuff off, getting it out of their zone when they don't want it. And Hannah Mayo does a great job of throwing an off-speed in there and being comfortable with it in that count, just being behind, or excuse me, being ahead, but having her foul off so many pitches and then coming in there with that changeup. It's huge to be able to throw a changeup in any count and be confident in it and know that you can get a strike.
Well, a dangerous hitter right here with Maris Schroeder. She is 2 for 3 on the day with a home run. Three RBI on the day, 21 total for the season. This one lifted up into right field. Gabby Moreno out there in right for Texas A&M and makes the catch. Alabama adds 1 more to their lead. They're up 11-1. We're headed to the bottom of the 5th. Welcome back to Davis Diamond, Game 2 of the series this weekend. Tomorrow at noon Eastern, 11 a.m. Central, we'll have the big series finale between number 11 LSU and number 8 Georgia at Foley Field in Athens. SEC Baseball is also available on the ESPN app, so you can watch anywhere. The 8-run rule is something to keep an eye out for. It is 8 runs after 5 innings. Right now, Alabama with the 10-run lead, 11-1. So Texas A&M going to have to add a couple of runs if they want to keep this game in play. The top of the order will start things off for the Aggies. Kelby Fortenberry. 2 balls, no strikes. Fortenberry singled in her last at-bat, hitting .426 on the year. Lays down the bunt. Can she beat it out? Cornell just in time. A great play right there by the pitcher to come out of the circle and make that play.
I really like that decision by Fortenberry. Even though they're down 11-1, Kelby Fortenberry hasn't done this all series. I think the only fault would be that it was just a tad too hard, and Cornell just got a really good jump on it, was able to kind of field it more so like a ground ball instead of having to run up, stop her momentum, and bend down and pick up the ball and throw it to first, but also a great job by Wallace getting over to first base.
So that'll bring up Blake and Fritch. But first, Coach Murphy is going to come out to the circle. And I believe we are going to have a pitching change for Alabama. We'll talk about Alabama's new pitcher when we come back after this. Stay tuned. Coming into the circle for Alabama, it's going to be the junior right-handed pitcher, number 42, Crystal Goodman. Goodman 5-0 on the season with a 1.42 ERA. Has pitched just about 30 innings, 29 2/3. And Tori, interesting move here by Coach Murphy. 2 outs technically left in this ball game. If you can get before Texas A&M scores any more runs, are you surprised that they didn't leave Cornell in to finish out this game?
I wouldn't say surprised. I mean, she did throw a great game. She got her job done. She did what she needed to do as the starter. Almost throws, I guess, kind of what we could call a complete game, but just trying to get Goodman some work here. Live ABs, you don't want to ever go too long without any live at-bats. And in a situation where you're up 10 runs and are on the verge of run-ruling a team, this is a great time to just get your pitcher in some innings without the pressure situation that she may be facing if it was a closer game.
Fritch 0 for 1 on the day. Did have a walk back in the first inning. Struck out in the third. Goodman hails from Long Beach, Mississippi. Ground ball. This will get past the diving Jenkins. Blake and Fritch is on base for Texas A&M.
Fritch just keeping it simple, barreling this ball up, getting a pitch on the outer half and just going with it, not doing too much. And not much gets by Claire Jenkins, but that one sneaks by her. A diving effort, but can't quite come up with it.
We talk about how Danny Elder has done a great job of taking advantage of the opportunity, the playing time. I think Blake and Fritch is also somebody who is really finding her comfort zone. She's kind of finding that groove of the season.
And I think that just comes from being in the lineup consistently and finally getting comfortable and just coming into her own, like you said. And once you're in a game, it can be hard to kind of just show up and produce. But when you have a couple games under your belt, kind of similar to how we're starting to see Kayla Garcia kind of just come out of her shell, you get to settle in and get comfortable with where you're at, who you're playing with, and just get more comfortable in the box.
Bailey Klingler, ground ball to short. They'll try to turn the double play, and they will. A double play for Alabama will end this ball game. Another run rule victory for the Crimson Tide. And Tori, again, just such a commanding performance by the number 3 team in the country.
And you'll see Bailey Klingler just tops this ball, kind of swinging and pulling off a little bit. And the middle infielders for Alabama are 2 that are very good and very fast hands, fast and soft hands. So I think as soon as this ball was hit, they knew that they were going to be able to turn a double play and win this ball game.
So only on 5 hits, but 11 runs. What was the key